We are an incredibly exciting time to be alive. And then go from that large view down to a more narrow view about this new health age and why I think it is probably one of the most interesting and exciting times to be an independent pharmacist in the United States. In fact, we are in the global stage of human evolution. We've gone from family to tribe to village to city-state to nation-state, and our only remaining boundaries for now are planetary. So we're getting organized in a global construct. That means that the word globalization is no longer just an economic term, but a term that describes what will happen through most of all of human society, again, from 2025 to 2030. You have two realities you have to manage. The physical reality you grew up in and our parents spent most of their lives in, and this new screen reality. The physical reality is based on atoms. The screen reality is based on digits. Therefore, the screen reality is morphing and evolving much more quickly than the physical reality. Now, I've been saying this for 7 years, and now at least I have some proof. Why are big box stores and Borders going out of business over here in the physical reality? Because of something over here called Amazon.com, right? And depending on who you are and what you do, this screen reality is more important than the physical reality. It's one of the young people here, how you show up on Facebook last night is every bit as important as how you'd show up in high school the next day. Or if you're a trader or a pharmacist. So you have these two realities. Now, simple statement. I get asked all the time by CEOs. I give a lot of corporate retreats. So what about social media? What should I do about that? Here's the easiest way to think about social media for your business. If you have ever gotten business through word of mouth in the physical reality, all social media is word of mouth in the screen reality. If you don't care about it, don't do it. If you care about it, do it, as I think you should. So you have these two realities you have to manage. 2010 to 2020 will be the transformation decade. Now, what is the definition of transformation? This is the dictionary definition of transformation: a change in form, appearance, nature, or character, which means that most of humanity's institutions and much of the way we think are going to change the nature, shape, and character and form. So as I say to CEOs all around the world, if you're not in the business of changing the nature, shape, character, and form of your company, of your business, you may not have one by 2020 because the rest of the world will be going through this dynamic change. As a pharmacist, if you're not changing the nature, shape, character, and form of what you call your business, you may not have one by 2020, which is why you have to always be making changes, always interacting with the customer. Now, one of the things that's going to happen in this decade is what I call the collapse of legacy thinking. What is legacy thinking? It's thinking from the past. If you're in this room and you're over 40, it means you spent the majority of your life in the 20th century, where your thought was shaped and formed. So much of your thinking is from the 20th century. That's legacy thinking. We all have it. But if you live in legacy thinking, thinking from the past, it's like you're in this legacy thinking house with small windows looking into the present. And you can't even see the future. So in the developed countries of the world, in the United States of America, and clearly in Washington, D.C., we are totally stuck in legacy thinking. Well, it used to work in the 80s. It should work now. So if your business mentor, say in 1990, said, always remember this is always true, or Dad always told me, revisit that and make sure that it still fits the reality of 2013. Because we have powered into the 21st century with the thinking of the 20th. This decade is the first decade of 21st century thought. Even though it's the second decade arithmetically of the 21st century, it's the first decade of 21st century thought. The example of that would be 20th century. Whatever you think of the 20th century, the American century, century of science, century of World War, it really began 1914 to 1918. First industrialized World War, Russian Revolution, general theory of relativity, the map of Europe as we know it today. Unfortunately, the Europeans defined the map of the Middle East, you know, with all those right angles in the middle of the desert then. So all these storylines from the last 100 years started in the second decade of the 20th century. So I think future historians, 2100, 50 years from now, are going to look back and go, this is the decade where humanity started to think 21st century thought. So I gave a talk in Florida last Friday, a graduation class at college, and as I spoke to the graduates, I said, your highest calling as you get this diploma in 2013 is to lead the way into 21st century thought. It's on your shoulders. So I say to you, as pharmacists, what does the 21st century pharmacy look like? What does the 21st century pharmacist have to do? How do you have to redefine your business looking ahead? That is really your highest calling, or your largest context for all the lower level blocking and tackling and executional innovations that you may be doing over the next year or two. So, about a year and a half ago, my book by this name, The New Health Age, The Future of Healthcare in America, was published. And my co-author, Jonathan Fleece, and I, back in 2010, when we decided to write this book, wrote this book for one reason only. As Americans, we looked around, and the conversation around healthcare in this country was driven by fear, misinformation, and manipulated by politicians. And any conversation that has those three components is a stupid conversation, right? So we wanted to write the intelligent book on healthcare. And everybody from Dr. Oz to heads of major consulting firms to heads of major hospitals all said that we did that. And why do we call it the new health age? Because we're in a completely new health age. McKesson at 180 years is older than modern medicine, 150 years old, Madame Curie, right? So it's all very recent, and now we are coming into a whole new health age. So I want to talk to you about that. Medicine and health management. We call it health care now. And I will explain to you why by 2020 we're going to call it health management. There are medical miracles that are going to occur between now and 2020 that are just amazing. And as pharmacists, you're much more educated than many audiences that I talk to about this. You know, the grain of sand bot that goes in your bloodstream that has an app, and its sole purpose is to detect cells from the heart muscle, because that's an early indicator of a heart attack. Beep, beep, better go see a doctor. Or I wear glasses. A lot of you wear glasses. Literally, in 2 years, somebody will be able to say, let me take those out, and I'll put 2 artificial ones in and give you a 10-year warranty on 20/20 vision. Or remember, he's not such a nice guy to refer to anymore, but for years I always referred to Oscar Pistorius, you know, that the sprinter who had no legs from South Africa, was born without any fibula, right? He made the Olympic team from South Africa in 2008, but he was disqualified from competing in the Beijing Olympics in 2008 because not having legs gave him an unfair advantage over those that did, right? This is the decade where our replacement parts are going to be superior to the parts we're born with, where we're going to be able to grow our own organs outside ourselves so that when we need a new kidney, we won't have to look for a donor. We'll have a completely compliant one that's been grown for us. These things are in the works now, medical miracles. The dynamic flows, I'm going to go into this in detail. There are 9 dynamic flows. This is what Jonathan and I researched. What are the underlying, you know, if those are the 3 forces of the shift age, what are the flows? What are the dynamics that are completely changing healthcare in the United States and around the world? And there are 9 of them. And as I thought about speaking to you today, I'm really excited to tell you that I think as almost more than any other segment of the healthcare landscape in the United States of America, you're better equipped to be able to utilize these flows to your benefit. So I wrote this book, and it took about a year and a half to write this book, 2010, 2011. And, you know, cocktail conversation. Oh yeah, I'm writing a book about healthcare reform in the new health age. You know, so in the politicized, dumbed down world of conversation about healthcare reform, I'd always have to explain it. So this was my cocktail cocktail party conversation. What's the elevator summary of my new book, right? So let me do a little exercise here. It'll be pretty obvious what I'm doing. So everything that I'm talking about, have been talking about, is present in the 80% of the American GDP that is not healthcare. If you run the 18% of our GDP that's healthcare up to 20, so that's the 80-20. So, and I'll try and get a good view here. Raise your hand in this room, please do so, if you have ever gone online to do a price-oriented search before buying a major product, like a car, flat screen TV. Raise your hand. You know, pretty much everybody. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever gone online to do the same thing, a price-oriented search, but this time about a hip replacement or major surgery. Okay, one guy, two or three, sorry. There you have it. So, price transparency, market competition, searchability, connectivity, electronic records, all of the stuff that we demand and expect in the 80% of the GDP that is the United States American economy is now just coming to healthcare. That's the oversimplified reality of what healthcare reform is going to be over the next few years. We live in a pound of cure healthcare system. I'm about to talk about this again. We all grew up at the age of 9, probably mom or dad told us ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, apple a day keeps the doctor away. We are currently in a pound of cure healthcare system, and we're moving away. We're moving to management. In the next 3 or 4 years, most of Americans, a lot of them educated by you, will understand it is their own responsibility to manage their health. So, I can get the price for a car, for a can of oil, for a gallon of milk. But healthcare, that's not so easy. Who said that? Dr. Peter Cram. He went out and asked 100 hospitals a simple question. And the question was, how much it would cost to get a hip replacement? Only half of them couldn't answer the question, and the half that could gave a range between $11,000 and $125,000. That's ludicrous. I wrote a column about a year ago, 30% of all hospitals will be out of business by 2020 because of things like this. Here is a point you have to accept and understand and embrace. At this moment in time in the pound of cure healthcare system, you are perhaps the only touch point in the whole healthcare system where when you're asked the question, how much is this going to cost, you give them an answer. How many times? Doc, how much is this going to cost? I don't know. Oh, before I get admitted to the hospital, how much is this procedure going to cost? I don't know. So healthcare is that one area in the American economy where we buy stuff and we don't know how much it costs, except when you go into your local pharmacy. So now, when prices are going to be known, when there's price competition, you are the only one that has the track record of giving a straightforward numerical answer to the question, how much is this going to cost me? That is a huge leg up because the rest of the healthcare system has to come to where you already are. So now we get into the 9 dynamic flows. They are categorized in 3 areas: how we think about it, how we deliver it, and the economics of it. So let's take a look at these 9. Now, as you look at these 9, you want to be going, if you're on the left side, moving to the right side of the screen for all of these, because these are the flows. They're moving from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. So it really is an interesting and fantastic and dynamic time for you and your industry to step up what you have been doing historically and just enlarge it, amplify it, and deepen it to all constituencies. So I really want to thank you for this time, and I want to say one more time, it is a wonderful time to be alive, and in this new health age, it is a great time to be a pharmacist. Thank you very much.